The contribution of women in the fields of science is perhaps one of the less explored subjects globally, and even to this day, there are fewer women pursuing scientific fields or STEM than men globally. For women in India, the challenges of pursuing the myriad fields of science during the British Raj and the years leading to India's independence on August 15, 1947 was difficult to say the least, as there were only limited opportunities. Higher educational institutions started by the British were limited when compared to India's population and geographical spread, and most of them were for men. The situation was even more complicated for women due to traditional circumstances in India of not encouraging education of the girl child, let alone giving them opportunities to pursue scientific fields. But for many women in India, these historic conditions, though difficult, were not insurmountable. As we celebrate 75 years of India's independence, we also celebrate the lives and contribution of women who cracked the glass ceiling and pursued science in the 19th and the 20th century in India. They were pioneers who fought against discrimination as well as societal and cultural barriers of keeping women out of educational institutions. So in this two-part series of Science for a Self Reliant India, we first explore the lives and contribution of some remarkable women, like Kadambani Ganguly, the first qualified doctor of India who studied medicine in Calcutta Medical College, Janaki Ammal, botanist and cytologist, Annamani, who excelled in the field of meteorology and physics, and Dr. Asima Chatterje, who excelled in organic chemistry and phytomedicine.
Women like Kamla Bhagwat at that time, who later on became Kamla Sohani, who did her pre-doctoral work here and then went to the UK with a scholarship where she did some very important work on cancer. Kamal Randive, Kamla Sohani, these are the early women scientists that I can think of. Then came Professor Janaki Ammal, who was the first woman to get a PhD in a US university. Then there is Professor Asima Chatterje, who got first woman to get a PhD in chemistry in India.
This and much more in our show, Science for a Self Reliant India, only on India Science. As we celebrate Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, which commemorates 75 years of progressive India and the glorious history of its people, culture and achievements, it is only befitting that we remember the important role of Indian women scientists in the 19th and 20th century, whose contribution to the field of science and education is now part of our country's rich legacy. In this series for Science for a Self-Reliant India, we pay special homage to these determined and brave women who fought against gender discrimination in education. They were ahead of their times, and while we can only bring to you the lives of only a few luminaries in these episodes, they represent all the women scientists who have enriched our country's educational ecosystem by bringing in gender parity and contributing to the fields of science on an international scale. So let's begin our episode by taking a close look at Kadambani Ganguly, the first qualified woman doctor in India. Madras Medical College was the first institution that allowed and admitted women students for the first time in India in 1875. This was an era when only one institution in the United States, the Women's Medical College of Pennsylvania, established in 1850, was open for women who wished to pursue medicine, while there were none in Europe. After Madras Medical College, the Calcutta Medical College, then known as Bengal Medical College, started admitting women in 1884, while Grant Medical College in Mumbai followed suit in 1887. But in the initial years, no Indian woman was able to qualify for admission in the medical colleges until Kadambani Ganguly, a graduate with a degree in arts, was finally admitted to Calcutta Medical College to pursue medicine in 1884. Kadambani Ganguly was born on 18th July 1861 as Kadambani Basu in Bhagalpur, Bihar, and was raised in Changi, Barisal, now in Bangladesh. She completed her formal education from Banga Mahila Vidyalaya, later merged with Bethune School. She became the first candidate from the Bethune School to appear for the University of Calcutta entrance exam and created history by becoming the first woman to pass the test in 1878. Kadambani was also one of the first two female graduates, along with Chandramukhi Basu, in the entire British Raj. After her graduation, when Kadambani decided to pursue medicine, she found that no medical college in Calcutta was admitting women students. But due to her persistent efforts and those of Dwarkanath Ganguly, a teacher and husband of Kadambani Ganguly, she was finally given a chance to appear for the entrance exams. And having qualified, she became the first lady to be admitted to Calcutta Medical College. She completed her education in 1886, even with hindrances and challenges that came in her way as the authorities were not in favor of admitting female candidates.
Before 1947, if I have to talk of women in science, I have to begin by talking about women in education. Women who learned, first, because women until 1880 or so, they were not even learning to read and write. And therefore, the early women achievers or scientists, as I can call them, are actually medical doctors. And most of them were taught at home very often by family members, fathers, brothers, husbands. And about them, I can talk about, Anandibai Joshi, Kadambani Ganguly, who were the first women doctors to get training as doctors. And I think one thing I would like to mention here, which is very nice, is that this is about the same time when in the rest of the world also women started becoming doctors and surgeons. So India was kind of in step with them. Then, of course, there were these women like Mary Lucosa, who was the first woman surgeon, who had a lot of support from Travancore king to go and study in the UK. And she was taught by some of the women who were first surgeons in the UK. So this is just to tell you that we were at the same time. So the first women who had something to do with science in India were actually medical doctors.
1886 was also a remarkable year for women's education in India, when two women qualified to become doctors in Western medicine. Kadambani Ganguly was of course one of them. Along with her, Anandi Gopal Joshi, who studied at Women's Medical College of Pennsylvania in the United States, also qualified as a doctor in 1886. But due to her ill health, she could not practice medicine and died in 1887. Thus, Anandi Gopal Joshi is considered the first Indian woman to be qualified as a doctor, and Kadambani Ganguly is considered the first Indian woman to practice her profession as a doctor. A few years later, Dr. Kadambani decided to pursue higher education in England and went on to complete 3 diplomas, namely Licentiate of the College of Physicians, Edinburgh, Licentiate of the College of Surgeons, Glasgow, and Licentiate of the Faculty of Physicians and Surgeons in Dublin. Dr. Kadambani Ganguly also specialized in pediatrics and gynecology. Dr. Ganguly was also associated with the freedom struggle and several social movements of India. She was also a part of the first ever female delegation to attend the Indian National Congress in 1899 and was selected to vote in its 5th session. Dr. Kadambani Ganguly openly spoke against Calcutta Medical College's practice of not admitting female candidates at the medical conference of 1915. It was a provoking lecture that led the university authorities to amend their policies and open their doors to all female students. Dr. Kadambani passed away on 3rd October 1923.
Madras Medical College was the first to open its doors for women. and later came the Calcutta Medical College and so on. So at that point, I think 1885, because women's health was very important, and as the colonial rulers themselves needed medical facilities, a fund was set up, Dufferton Fund, to enable women doctors to come into India and also to train Indian women into medicine. And that is why, at that point, Anandibai was able to go to US. And there was only one institution in US offering medical education to women. And in Europe, none. But in India, the medical colleges of Madras and Calcutta did open their doors to women. And at that point, I think education for women, though not prevalent, but began to be available. And if you look at one of the oldest colleges, the Bethune College in Calcutta, and the alumni that it produced at that point and the role that they played in politics, in social activism, it is immense. So Abila Bose is one of the alumni. Kadambani Ganguly is another one. And now you move up and you find that Neena Gupta has received the Ramanujam Award for mathematics. And she is an alumni of that institution. So institutions have a big role to play in how women will contribute to society and so on.
Janaki Ammal was born in 1897 in Tillacheri, Kerala. After schooling in Tillacheri, she moved to Madras, where she obtained a bachelor's degree from Queen Mary's College and followed it up with an honours degree in botany from Presidency College in 1921. Under the influence of teachers at the Presidency College, Janaki Ammal acquired a lifelong passion for cytogenetics. Plant cytogenetics is a combination of cytology and genetics. Cytology deals with the study of cells, their origin, structure, function, and pathology of plants, and also as a means to diagnose or test for other diseases. However, genetics deals primarily with the patterns of inheritance of specific traits of the concerned plants. Janaki Ammal then went to the USA for higher studies and obtained a master's degree from the University of Michigan in 1925. On her return, she started teaching at Women's Christian College, Madras. After a few years, she returned to Michigan as the first Oriental Barber Fellow. In an age when most women didn't make it past high school, she obtained a PhD at one of America's finest public universities and became the first Indian woman to be conferred a PhD in botany in the United States. She then went on to become the first Indian woman to be elected to the Fellowship of the Indian Academy of Sciences in 1935. Professor Janaki Ammal was an internationally recognized botanist for her extensive research and writings on sugarcane. From 1934 to 1939, she worked as a geneticist at the Sugarcane Breeding Institute, Coimbatore, where she made significant investigations on cytogenetical studies of sugarcane and eggplant and traced the evolution of these crops. Her pioneering work on cytogenetics of sugarcane and hybrids involving sugarcane and related grass species like bamboo is still considered as outstanding discoveries in the field of botany. She also created a new variety of sugarcane called SG6332 through experimental breeding. From 1940 to 1945, she worked as assistant cytologist at the John Innes Horticultural Institution in London and as cytologist at the Royal Horticultural Society at Risley from 1945 to 1951 as well. Dr. Ammal also published several research articles and co-authored the Chromosome Atlas of the Cultivated Plants jointly with C.D. Darlington in 1945. Her studies on chromosomes facilitated better understanding of the evolution of species and various varieties of plants. On the invitation of the then Prime Minister of India, Jawaharlal Nehru, she returned to India in 1951 to reorganize the Botanical Survey of India and was appointed as its officer on special duty. She went on to serve as the Director General of the Botanical Survey of India. Owing to her brilliant research contributions in the field of botany, she was awarded the Birbal Sahni Medal in 1961. Dr. Ammal was awarded the Padma Shri by the President of India in 1977 for her exemplary work in the field of botany and plant cytogenetics.
You know, all these women have inspired generations of others. They have opened the doors for other women to pursue careers in science, and they have been inspirational. And the list is large. You know, you look at just about any discipline and you will find that there are a few names that have led women into those disciplines. So you have, let us say, you have Janaki Ammal, who was the first Director General of Botanical Survey of India, or you have Annamani, who was in meteorology. You know, you have Rajeshwari Chatterje, the first engineer employed at Indian Institute of Science, or Kamal Ranadev, who set up the first tissue culture lab and then, you know, also set up Cancer Research Center. So name any area of science and, you know, the progression of science over the years, and Indian women have been participants. The numbers, however, have not been very strong, but it does demonstrate the potential of women, and given an opportunity, the heights to which they can rise.
Annamani was born on 23rd August 1918 in Travancore, Kerala. She initially wanted to pursue medicine, but later decided to take physics and enrolled in the honours program in physics at the Presidency College in Madras. She graduated with a BSc honours degree in physics and chemistry. In 1940, Annamani obtained a scholarship to do research in physics at the Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore, under the supervision of Nobel laureate Sir C.V. Raman. In Dr. Raman's laboratory, Annamani worked on the spectroscopy of diamonds and rubies. The application of fluorescence spectroscopy is a powerful and effective tool to study the physical and chemical behavior of macromolecules. Annamani recorded and analyzed fluorescence absorption and Raman spectra, including the temperature dependence and polarization effects of over 30 different diamonds. Between 1942 and 1945, she published 5 papers on luminescence of diamonds and rubies. In August 1945, she submitted her PhD dissertation at Madras University. Though her dissertation involved ample research work, she was refused a PhD as she did not have a master's degree. Undeterred, Annamani then moved to Britain to study physics on a government scholarship for an internship in the Imperial College London. Although her preference was to pursue research in physics, she ended up specializing in meteorological instrumentation as it was the only scholarship available to her at that time. But it began a lifelong passion and contributed in enriching India's meteorological mission. Annamani returned to India in 1948 and joined the Indian Meteorological Department at Pune as a scientist and in charge of construction of radiation instrumentation. At IMD, she standardized the drawings of about 100 weather-related instruments for production and also set up monitoring stations across the country to monitor solar radiations to help India harness solar energy. In 1960, Mani continued her work on measuring atmospheric ozone. This was before the world even understood the ozone layer's functions. She designed an instrument called Ozone Sonde to measure atmospheric ozone. Annamani also set up a meteorological observatory at ISRO's Thumba rocket launching facility in Kerala. Her work on measuring wind speeds in over 700 locations across the country also laid the foundation for India's wind energy dreams. Annamani was a remarkable meteorologist and physicist who retired as the Deputy Director General of the Indian Meteorological Department in 1976. She subsequently returned to the Raman Research Institute in Bangalore as a visiting professor for the next 3 years. This was the very place she had begun her research career in 1940 as a young pioneering science researcher. Annamani passed away on August 16, 2001 in Kerala.
Beginning from Anandibai Joshi or Kadambani Ganguly or, I think they are role models for a different reason. Then people like Indira Nath, people like Asima Chatterje, people like Janaki Ammal, people like Rajeshwari Chatterjee are a next level of role models that you have to hold your own in this world of science. And you have to you can participate and you can reach the top. For example, our Soumya Swaminathan, I would say, these are the shining role models of women scientists. I mean, otherwise we can talk of other people like Kalpana Chawla and so on, but I am focusing on women who are doing science. And I would say all these women are shining examples of high achievers. And actually, somewhere in the age group of 50, now we have so many of them that I don't even want to name them. I mean, there is a very large number of very competent, and from where I am, 50 is young. There are many, many 50-year-olds who are doing fantastic work and making fantastic contributions. And I, for one, think that the scene of women scientists contributing to Indian science is very, very positive.
Women scientists of India in the 19th and 20th century fought against prevalent cultural barriers which prevented them from getting an education. They fought against discrimination in educational institutions that barred women entry, and they fought against British rule in India. Many of them are unsung heroes, but their contribution in opening up women's education, in particular the fields of science which were considered domains of men, needs to be highlighted, studied and celebrated. In our next episode of Science for a Self Reliant India, we continue to look at some more remarkable Indian women whose contribution in scientific research and education have contributed to expanding the realms of science and our understanding of the world we live in. This and much more on Science for a Self Reliant India, only on India Science.